I have a very special interview today. First of all, most of you already know because you follow me that I never get up this early. It's 10 a.m. Central Time. So the fact that I'm doing an interview this early means I really must want to talk to Shawnee Baker, which I do much, much, much to talk about. So I want to start off talking about you first before we get to your child. Interesting question. You're a nurse, or you were a nurse at one point, RN. And in particular, I know that you used to spend time working in the NICU. So this is my question to you. For those of us that don't get a bird's eye view of being in that environment, how does one psychologically prepare themselves for that type of work every day?
Gosh, that's a good question. It's a very difficult job to have. It's very high stress. It's very heartbreaking at times. Um, but you know what? You get into a mindset where your whole mission is to help others and just give what you can from your heart and do your best to make, the best of a terrible situation. And saving lives is what I've always wanted to do. So from the time I was a little girl, I wanted to work in the neonatal ICU. And it was just an honor and a privilege to help those families and work with babies.
Okay. Now, as I understand it in reading, you actually met your husband in the hospital, correct?
I was working in the hospital at the time, but I actually met my husband online. So we were in the same area, but yeah, I was in Boston at the time.
Gotcha. And so because I'm about shameless promotion for everyone. So tell me a bit about your husband. I know what he does, but tell everyone else what he does. And then second of all, tell me a bit about he's not here. So I'd like to know pretty much the main difference between the two of you. I like the fact that people complement one another.
Right. So my husband is in finance and always has been. He currently runs a trust company at the moment. We're very different, opposites attract, but yet at the same time, we had a commonality of resilience. I was a struggling single mom, and he was working in executive roles, living in Manhattan at times, working in very high profile positions. By the time I met him, though, he had lost quite a bit of that and was a little humbled with his life. And so
Ah,
resilience is what brought us together. And he was rebuilding and I was rebuilding from very different places. But yeah, he had lived a life far different from mine, which was really an interesting dynamic between the two of us.
you betcha. In the past, I also read, okay, this makes me curious. You've done sleep workshops. Now, why am I curious? Because I can't sleep. So were these designed specifically for younger parents or other people, or and are you still doing them?
I'm not. No, I was
Okay.
working doing that with parents of young children, primarily children under the age of 3. So I had a neonatal background, lactation consultant, and then I did several parenting courses and sleep consulting courses. I worked with a sleep doctor for a while and was just working with families one on one to help them through those transitional stages.
Gotcha. Okay. So much for hoping she's going to tell me the magical cure for sleep because it's just not been working, but it's okay. Um, so you have other children besides Baylie, of course. So my question to you is this. At one point in your life, unfortunately, you had suffered a miscarriage, which I had read, and I'm so very sorry about that. Um, I wanted to ask you about the differences in grief, meaning loss is loss, and I understand that. But miscarrying and actually bearing a child, a physical child that's grown and 19 years old, I can imagine is different. So, what is the coping technique? Is it different? Is it the same? How do you process that in a somewhat healthy manner?
For me, it was entirely different. Um, I mean, it didn't even it paled in comparison to losing Baylie. I had raised Baylie, known Baylie,
Yeah.
invested my entire life into Baylie. So for 19 years, every thought I had and every decision I made in my entire life was based on my 3 children and what I could do to make their lives better. As a parent, you know that investment, you know the sacrifice, you know those late nights with them and up with them, whether it's emotional or sick or taking care of them and making sure they have everything they need and in the best schools and in all the programs they need to and all the sporting activities you sacrifice your time for. Um, those are losses no one really talks about. Beyond the loss, the incomprehensible loss of your child, their soul, their being. their personality, everything about them. You have a compounded loss of yourself and your life and everything you've just done for the last 19 years. It's unimaginable, and
I
it takes an
imagine.
awful lot to process.
Thank you for that. Speaking of the other children, tell everyone how many other children you have and their ages.
Yes. So I had three children in my early 20s, two boys, and then Baylie. So my
Yes.
boys are now 28 and 27. And then I have two little girls who are 6 and 4.
You betcha. Now, as to your other children in general, I imagine this has been an adjustment for them too, obviously, because they lost a sibling as well. So, on their side of the fence, having the foundation and doing some of the other things you've done have helped you. Have they done things, special things, or momental things, or things that help them to process their own loss?
Yeah, you know what? Being so young, it's been difficult for them. I think the biggest part is for them to continue to thrive and live their lives the best way they can to honor their sister. That loss has pushed them forward and propelled them to be the best people they can be. They do contribute to the foundation. They're very proud of the work that I've done. They're very supportive. They both have read the book, they're very supportive of all of it. And they're just trying their best to navigate through some of the hard, painful moments that have come for the last several years.
You betcha. As to Scott, he is the husband, but also stepfather. So that's a different capacity, of course. And so, if I were to ask you if people are going to watch this interview and they are a spouse of an individual who's buried a child, any advice or anything that Scott has offered you that might be really helpful to another family?
Gosh. Um, Advice from Scott, you mean? Or advice?
Like
Yeah.
anything, obviously, your husband's been part of your grieving process. He's been here and he's been your partner. If someone sees this interview and they themselves have gone through this, what advice would you think your husband would give to other partners? What do you think he would tell husbands or spouses in the way or regard of being able to help you heal?
I think his advice would be to just step back and wait, that time is everything. And really understanding that the grieving process for something as significant as the loss of a child is very long. And it's not just grief, it's not just loss, it's not just pain, it's complete rewiring of your brain. It is truly a mental process. You completely lose yourself and you lose your spouse, and the normal things and the normal behaviors that used to be a part of your everyday life completely change. Everything from forgetting how to get to the grocery store to, losing your wallet every day to, I mean, your brain is completely rewiring and restructuring. And one of the best pieces of advice I got through the grieving process from my grief counselor and my psychologist was understanding that I needed to be patient with myself and that the desire to live would not come for several months, which it didn't, that complicated grief was a very likely possibility, which compounds things even further, and that my brain needed to learn. It had to rebuild new networks. It had to eliminate memories from the past, restructure, and create new pathways for me to understand who I was, what was my purpose and my existence in the world. I can't tell you any more than it's like living in the twilight zone. The earth is literally flipped on its side and you don't even recognize the sun the same way. It is the most confusing state to be thrown into in those early stages of grief, and our culture really doesn't recognize that.
I hear you. Thank you for that, by the way. Um, so Bailey, what would you want to say about your child that I wouldn't know or maybe any of us wouldn't know about her?
Gosh, I mean, it depends on what you've read, but Baylie was the most compassionate, loving, kind person you would ever meet. Baylie was such a bright light. When she walked in a room, she was bubbly and kind and fun loving. She lit up the room and everybody was drawn to her. Baylie was the kind of person who made you feel special. She made you feel good about yourself. She just had that gift. And she was just everything you would want to be. Truly, she was this incredible daughter that everybody would want in a daughter. Um, and she was smart. She was a smart girl, and she was going places, and she was determined. And I just can't say enough wonderful things about her. Of course, she's my daughter.
And your best friend. That's what I had read, actually, as a matter of fact, which is so sweet. I think most of us parents, our daughters are our best friends. There are 2 days that are significant to you, I understand, which is May 6th, which is Bailey's birthday. And then we're going to talk about September 27th. But first, do you have a special Sarah, I don't want to say ceremony, but ways that you recognize her birthday now that you didn't previously?
Right. So we typically go to the beach, which is where Baylie is. She's in the ocean now, and
Yeah.
well, she's everywhere. She's everywhere, but that's where Bailey's ashes are. And Bailey's some special place was the beach. She loved to be there. She loved
Okay.
being near the water. So we go to the beach. We put flowers in the water. We send them off with the tide. We light a candle for her that evening, and we recognize the day. It's always a painful day. It's always extra painful on those anniversary dates. But
Imagine.
as I recognize that Bailey is still with us in spirit, it's easier to recognize the day than it was.
Okay, we're going to talk about Bailey. I want to read off some statistics that I had learned, and folks, just so you know, this gives you some context because this is what the story is about. As of July 2025, there are 2,359 pending lawsuits as it relates to rideshare, meaning their failure to implement safety precautions, which leads to crimes and crises of all types. There's an 8% rise in campus crimes as of late. These are alarming statistics to me. Obviously, your child. This is very relevant to her story. So if you would, I know it, but please share with everyone specifically what happened to your daughter.
Bailey was a neuroscience major headed into her sophomore year at the University of Miami. I had dropped her off, well, spent the week with her, setting up her dorm room, and then left her in her dorm room on a Thursday night. We went on a sailboat trip on the Friday morning. I spoke with her on Saturday from the sailboat, and it wasn't until Sunday morning that we got the call. On Saturday, she told me she was going to go out with some friends, her sorority sisters. She was a Zeta Chi Alpha sorority member. And I lost service on the boat. We were 3 hours offshore, so I didn't have a signal Saturday night.
Okay.
By 8 o'clock Sunday morning, I had a signal. I sent her a text. It bounced right back to me. And within seconds, my phone rang and it was the police. And they asked me if I was Bailey's mother, which I said yes. They told me Bailey was alive, but that we needed to come to Miami immediately. There had been a terrible accident and we needed to get there as soon as possible. That's when we learned about the healthcare proxy, the power of attorney
Right.
issues. But we weren't able to know anything more than that. Other than that, we had to get there immediately. Um, Later, when I asked where she was, they said she's in the hospital. I asked what was wrong. They said we can't talk about that. I said, did she break her leg? I can't give you any information.
Right.
Can I speak to her? You'll have to call the hospital. So when we finally got a hold of the trauma surgeon at the hospital, in conversation, they also didn't really reveal anything. We didn't know she had a head injury. We didn't know what had happened or how critical she was. But my husband continued to pressure them and say, how quickly do we need to get there? At
Yeah.
the end of the call, he said, put it this way, you may be coming to say goodbye to your daughter. So we knew at that time we needed to get there immediately.
Yeah.
Um, Bailey had gone out on the Saturday night with her friends, and at the bar, she had gotten separated from the sorority sisters because a boy had sent her a text to say, Bailey was drinking water at the bar and had had enough. Basically, wanted to go back to the dorm
Yeah.
rooms. It sent her a text and said, "Why don't we head back? Meet me on the sidewalk." He was at a different club, and we'll catch a ride share together and go back. So
Yeah.
she told the girls she was going to separate for that reason. And the girl said, "Look, send us a text as soon as you're with him so we know you're safe." She went outside. He stood her up. He decided not to come out of the club. She's alone outside. She can't get back in. So she sends a text to the girls to say, "Look, I'm on my own, but it's okay. I've called a ride share. I'll let you know when I'm safely
Yeah.
back at campus." While she was waiting for her rideshare, she was approached by two young men who said they were med students at the University of Miami. They described the dorm rooms to her. They said they were going to the same place. They said their rideshare would be there any minute. They encouraged her to cancel hers and go with them to save on money. Their rideshare appeared and she canceled hers and hopped in with them. But they weren't med students. They were in their 30s and they took her on a loop. They stopped and got her a water. They gave her a water that we believe was laced. There's a video camera of them giving her the water, text messages from her to her friends. I'm with some sketchy guys. They're random bros. They won't give me their real name. We're not headed back to campus. They want me to drink the water too much. They're trying to get me to drink the water too much. And then at some point, she spills the water in the ride share, and the Uber driver kicks them all out, lets the guy know that there will be a $200 charge for a
Yeah.
cleaning fee. And that doesn't faze him. He's like, okay, and heads into the next club and gets her another water, which he reaches into his pocket for something we can't see on the video camera. There's an umbrella in the way, and he tries to give her another water.
Mhm.
At that point, she gets away and she's texting her friends, letting them know something's very wrong. She can't use her phone. Please come get me. Something's wrong. I don't know how to use my phone. Baylie, you need to get an Uber. You need to get a ride share
Yeah.
back to either the apartments or to the dorm. She said, guys, you don't understand. I don't know how to use my app. I don't know how to use GPS.
Mm.
Come get me. And they said, we can't come get you. It's 3 in the morning and it's pouring rain. If we follow you, we track you on Friend Finder, we'll watch you. Just keep walking. We're going to send you a pin for our address. See if you can open it. She gets text messages, a pin. She clicks on the pin. She says, oh, thank God I can open that. Great.
Okay.
They said, follow it. So she follows the app and walks right into 6 lanes of traffic where she's hit. Baylie remained in a coma for 6 weeks at that point, which is where we encountered many, many issues with the law, legalities regarding power of attorney, HIPAA
Right.
waiver, healthcare proxies, um, and then, of course, the legal issues of justice that we did not get. We could not seek justice in the case, and these men went free.
So I guess I should start there. Do you have any idea why? I mean, it sounds pretty cut and dry to me based on evidence that you have. What were you told in terms of why couldn't you pursue this to the fullest extent legally against them?
Because without the smoking gun, which would have been the proof of Rufinol in her blood, there would never be a prosecution. And because of HIPAA waiver, when we asked for the blood work to be drawn, we
Mhm.
didn't have the authority as her parents to ask for that. There was a delay in getting the blood work. In the state of Florida, it is standard practice to not do drug or alcohol levels on a trauma patient because insurance companies deny the claim. So that's standard. And unless it is requested, it isn't done. We had to get the police to order it. And by
Okay.
the time that happened, it was 36 hours later and everything was gone.
Do you feel that you'll ever come to a point in time where you can forgive the individuals involved with this?
Gosh, forgiveness is a strong word, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, I don't have the anger towards them that my husband does. Um, I don't know what the intent was. We've been contacted by the Sex Trafficking Coalition, who believe that Baylie was a target of sex trafficking, that the loop that they took her on was very common. The description of the two men was
Okay.
common, that after Bailey's situation, there were two other young women, young girl students taken from the University of Miami in a rideshare, given a drugged water, only they were transported to the airport and woke up at the hotel across from the airport where
Okay.
they were able to get back to campus. Again, no charges, not reported. I only know this because of my situation that I'm in. And the girls are embarrassed and they don't want to come forward. This is a common problem in our culture. Young women do not want to come forward
Yeah.
for things like this. They believe that they'll be judged, that they might not be believed. We've got a problem with sexual assault, with being roofied. We've got a problem with young women not reporting. So I'm angry at the system. I'm upset that this happens and nobody steps up and nobody does anything to prevent it from happening more. I am upset with the men who did this to her, and I Of course, I'm hurt and angry that she was a target, um, but I guess no one's ever asked me about forgiveness before, so I'm kind of in a tough place right now with that.
I get it. I do. And I think a lot of us struggle with that. Anyone, myself included, I'm still not forgiving myself for the loss of my own better half, which I feel responsible for. So forgiveness is definitely a thing. Was the Uber individual questioned and were they helpful at all in terms of that evening and what they
Yeah,
remember?
so they were interviewed as well, but unfortunately, English was not their first language, and they had a hard time
Uh,
understanding what was happening, what the conversation was. My concern was that he recognized something was wrong and that she did not know these men and was not comfortable. And, I wish there was training for these rideshare drivers
yeah,
to kick the guys out of the car and take that girl back to campus.
yeah.
There's an opportunity to intervene, and we have an issue in our country with bystanders. Everybody stays out of it, everybody
Mm.
minds their own business. And if we could have some bystander training, we might be able to save some lives and intervene when it's appropriate.
You betcha. Would it be fair to say that you obviously, at this point in your life, have a real issue with the rideshare programs in general and think that things should be modified? And if so, how would you change things to keep people safer?
Oh gosh, 100%. Well, actually, it's funny you should ask because again, serendipitously, we've come across a young man who graduated from the University of Miami and created an incredible app, a safety app. And his safety app was designed because of all these scenarios that were happening in Florida. South Florida is a hotspot for dangerous, whether it's ride shares, roofies, sex trafficking, all of it. And he knew so many people who had either come close or had these terrible incidents occur. So he created an app. It's called Third Eye. And this app will record live audio and video of the situation. So let's say you get in the ride share, you press the button, it's automatically recording audio and video, which can later be used as evidence. He was able to get that law passed, even though the Uber driver does not know they're being recorded. It's been allowed.
Okay.
He's working with Apple. They have AI Assist. So AI listens to the conversation. If they identify a threat, they send a discreet signal to 911 with your location. It also allows for other people to join the app. So you can text friends, up to 10 friends, to listen, to come into this group chat and say, what do you think? Does this sound dangerous? Should I get
Yeah.
out? And other people can trigger the alert to 911, not just that person. So it allows for more discretion from even parents or adults because sometimes these kids at 18 don't even realize they're in danger. So I think this is a really powerful tool. Unfortunately, this app was brought to the attention of the colleges and a hope to be able to give them to college students and replace the blue light system, which is in the parking lots, dated
Yeah.
system from the 80s that just doesn't work anymore. It actually costs the colleges 90,000 a year to maintain it. But instead of transferring that money over to a safety app for 2025 and everybody has a phone, they've just declined to do it. They just don't feel that it's something their students need, and they don't want to send an alarm bell off that it's dangerous. And this is what we run into all the time with schools. They don't want anyone to think it's a dangerous school.
Mm. Frustrating, I imagine. Oh my gosh, I'd be beside myself. I'm going to stop this for